It started with a DM. On February 2, 2011, Jasmine got a message on Instagram from a verified sneaker reseller who had been reposted by a page she followed. His name was Zaire, and he was offering a limited discount to Black queens who support Black businesses. Cheesy? Yes. But his smile was disarming, and his voice, when they eventually FaceTimed, was soft in a way that made Jasmine feel safe. By the end of the week, they were texting daily. He started calling her Sunshine. Said she had the kind of eyes you don't scroll past. He wasn't like the other guys she knew, he didn't just want her body. He asked about her goals, her art, her family. Said he respected a woman with hustle. Jasmine fell fast. Not foolishly, but fully. For the next 3 months, their connection deepened. Zaire claimed he'd recently ended a messy situation with a woman he wasn't serious about. He said he was focusing on his brand and didn't have time for drama. Jasmine believed him. They made virtual plans, date nights over FaceTime, playlists they built together, late-night prayers. But they had never met in person. By April, Jasmine was planning a visit. He had invited her to Charlotte to see where the magic happens. Said he wanted her to shoot product photos for his sneaker site. Told her she could finally meet his younger sister and they'd cook together. She was hesitant, flights weren't cheap, and her schedule was tight, but Zaire offered to cover half. That sealed it. She booked her ticket on May 28, set to fly out on July 18, 2011. She told Amaya first. Amaya was excited but cautious. Just make sure he's real, she said. Jasmine brushed it off. They'd video called a dozen times. She knew his laugh. She knew the scar near his collarbone. She didn't know everything, but she knew enough. What she didn't know was that Zaire's ex was not an ex at all. In Charlotte, Zaire was living a double life. 3 months before he ever messaged Jasmine, Zaire had eloped with Kenya Wallace, a 30-year-old esthetician who owned a lash studio on Beatty's Ford Road. Their wedding in Las Vegas was quiet, no social media, no announcement. Kenya believed it was for privacy. In truth, Zaire had a pattern, he compartmentalized women. Jasmine was the dreamer. Kenya was the stability. He thought he could control both. July 18, 2011, was warm in Charlotte, humid, the kind of heat that made the air feel heavier than it should have. At 2:22 p.m., Jasmine Boyd stepped off her flight, her backpack snug on one shoulder, her edges still slicked down from that early morning rush in Chicago. The moment she stepped into the arrival hall, she scanned the crowd for Zaire. He wasn't there. She waited 10 minutes. Then 20. At first, she smiled to herself, maybe he was just finding parking. But by the 40-minute mark, her shoulders had dropped. She kept refreshing his messages. No texts. No call. Just silence. Then at 3:13 p.m., her phone buzzed. Stuck in traffic. Coming now. You good? She read it twice. Then once more. Yeah, I'm good, she replied. 10 minutes later, she saw his black coupe pull up outside Terminal B. Zaire leaned against the passenger side, shades on, casual like they'd done this 100 times before. Jasmine's heart jumped before her body moved. When they hugged, it wasn't awkward. He smelled like oud and peppermint, and he didn't rush it. He whispered something low, something about how pictures didn't do her justice, and Jasmine smiled so hard her eyes shut for a second. She believed him. The ride from the airport to his apartment was short, maybe 20 minutes, but in that ride, everything felt stretched. Jasmine talked fast, about the turbulence, about the crying baby 2 rows behind her, about how her ears were still popping. Zaire just nodded along, stealing glances at her when she wasn't looking. He drove one hand on the wheel, the other resting near the gearshift. Close to her knee. Not touching. Just close enough for her to notice. When they pulled into his complex, she let out a small wow. It wasn't luxury, but it was neat. Tidy. White blinds. Clean sidewalks. 3rd floor. Inside, the apartment looked like something out of a lifestyle post. Black leather couch. Matching bar stools. A faint scent of sandalwood and bleach. On the counter, 2 wine glasses already set beside a chilled bottle of white. Jasmine blinked. Not red. Not Moscato. White. Dry. Grown. She teased him, asked if he had someone over before she came. He laughed and said, "Nah, my sister dropped by earlier. She always leaves stuff out." She nodded. It didn't feel like a lie. But it didn't feel like the truth either. She didn't question it. That first night, they ordered Chinese food. Watched Love and Basketball on his mounted TV, feet tucked under a shared blanket. Jasmine leaned into his chest like she had 100 times in her dreams. It felt safe. It felt full. And when Amaya texted asking how things were going, Jasmine typed back without even thinking. "Girl, he's even better in person. I feel safe." She stared at those last 2 words a moment before sending. They felt right. And maybe that's why she ignored the fact that when Zaire got up to shower that night, he took his phone with him. The next day passed like syrup. Slow. Sweet. Jasmine stayed in. Zaire had gone out for a couple of hours to handle something work-related. Said a supplier messed up a bulk drop. She didn't pry. Instead, she unpacked her things, shot some windowlight selfies for Instagram, and reheated leftover lo mein from the night before. She wasn't used to this, just being in someone else's space. Being considered. Being invited. By the time he got back around 4 p.m., he came in smiling, holding a small bag of mini pastries and a cold lemonade. She smiled back, kissed his cheek without even thinking. It felt earned. That evening, they sat on the balcony and talked. Jasmine asked him how he started the sneaker business. He told her about flipping Jordans in high school. Said he used to clean shoes with a toothbrush just to stretch them another week. He told her about the time his mom got evicted and he promised himself he'd never let money get him caught off guard again. Jasmine listened like every word mattered. She touched his arm once when he paused too long. And for a moment, they sat in silence together, not awkward, but deep. Shared. It felt like real intimacy. But by 9:17 p.m., things shifted. Zaire stepped into the bathroom for a shower, music playing low from the speaker in the living room. Jasmine stayed behind, curled on the couch, her charger unplugged from the wall. She stood to grab it from the kitchen counter where Zaire had tossed it earlier. That's when it happened. His phone lit. "You said you was gone for 2 nights, Z. You lied again." The name? Ken. No emoji. No heart. Just those words. Jasmine stared at the screen for 10 seconds. Then turned away. That night, she didn't sleep well. By July 20, 2011, Jasmine wasn't the same woman who stepped off the plane 2 days earlier. Her laugh had shrunk. Her eyes scanned the room more often. She moved like someone who was waiting for something, except she didn't know what. The change wasn't loud, but it was there. And Zaire noticed. When he handed her a cup of orange juice that morning and called her Sunshine, the name just hovered in the air between them, heavy. She didn't smile. Just nodded and sipped. He tried to fix the mood that afternoon. Around 2:15 p.m., he said they should go for a ride. Clear her head. She followed him down to the car in silence. No music played during the drive. When they got to the park off West Boulevard, he parked near the trailhead and rolled the windows down. The breeze was light, but Jasmine barely felt it. Zaire leaned against the hood and started talking. He said life had been messy lately. That certain people, didn't understand boundaries. He didn't name anyone, but his words were deliberate, shaped like damage control. Jasmine listened. Eyes on a group of kids chasing each other near the swings. She didn't respond. Just nodded when he paused, like she was watching a movie she'd already seen before. The truth was, she didn't trust herself to speak. If she opened her mouth, she wasn't sure what would come out. That night, back at the apartment, she called Amaya from the balcony. Her voice was low, almost a whisper, like the walls inside had ears. Something's not right. He's hiding something. There was a long pause on the other end. Then Amaya said the one thing Jasmine had been too afraid to say out loud. "Come home, Jazz." Jasmine promised she would think about it. But even she didn't know what that meant yet. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that Kenya had been watching the entire time. A week before Jasmine ever set foot in Charlotte, Kenya had logged into Zaire's iCloud. The password hadn't changed. He never thought to. Kenya read every message. Watched every location ping. She knew when Jasmine booked her flight. She knew when it landed. She knew everything and said nothing. She wasn't emotional. She was patient. On July 21 at 7:50 p.m., Kenya drove past the apartment complex. Her windows were up. Music low. She kept her distance, parked near the dumpster across the lot. That's when she saw them. Zaire and a woman, petite, golden brown, laughing too easily, standing near the trunk of his car. Jasmine leaned on him like she belonged there. Like she had a reason. Kenya didn't move. Just watched. Then she drove away. Later that night, around 9:12 p.m., Zaire's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered casually, thinking it might be one of his vendors. But there was only silence. Then a voice. Low. Even. You better enjoy your little vacation. You just don't know what's coming. The line went dead. Zaire stood there for a moment, the phone still at his ear. Then he deleted the call log. He never told Jasmine. The next morning, July 22, something felt off. Zaire said he had a quick meeting. Told Jasmine to stay in and rest. He kissed her forehead before leaving at 10:15 a.m., but it felt mechanical. Like something done out of habit, not affection. Jasmine walked to the window and watched him pull out of the lot. The apartment was too quiet. She opened her laptop. Tried to edit a few photos, but her hands wouldn't settle. Her thoughts were noisy. The message from Ken, the missing answers, the coldness she couldn't explain. Everything buzzed beneath her skin. Then at 12:07 p.m., there was a knock at the door. Not frantic. Just firm. She froze. Her first instinct was to ignore it. But then she stepped forward. Looked through the peephole. A woman stood outside. Mid-30s. Stylish. Still. Her eyes didn't flinch. Jasmine cracked the door open, heart thumping. The woman didn't ask to come in. She just said, "You don't know me. But I know you." Jasmine stepped back. Kenya walked in without needing permission. What was said between them inside that apartment has never been repeated out loud. Not by Jasmine. Not by Kenya. Not by the neighbors who only caught pieces. But what followed lasted almost 30 minutes. Raised voices. A glass breaking, possibly the one from the counter Jasmine hadn't touched since the first night. One neighbor reported hearing someone say, "He lied to both of us." Another claimed they saw the woman leave around 12:40 p.m., sunglasses on, jaw clenched. By the time Zaire returned at 1:03 p.m., Jasmine was sitting on the couch like she'd aged 10 years. Her knees were drawn to her chest. Her phone rested in her lap like a weight. She didn't flinch when he walked in. She didn't speak. She just stared at him like she didn't recognize the man standing there. Zaire asked what happened. Jasmine didn't answer. That silence stayed between them the rest of the evening. Around 8:30 p.m., Jasmine pulled out her suitcase and started folding her clothes. The same clothes she had neatly arranged 2 nights before. Zaire stood in the doorway, watching her. "Don't leave like this," he said. "Just stay one more night. I'll explain everything." She didn't say yes. But she didn't keep packing either. She stayed. Zaire fell asleep first. Jasmine sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through her phone. She opened her text thread with Amaya. Her fingers hovered. Then typed. "He's not who I thought. I'm coming home tomorrow. Don't ask questions yet." She stared at the words. Then deleted them. Typed them again. Paused. Then deleted them again. She didn't send anything. The phone screen dimmed. The apartment was quiet. Outside, the streetlights flickered once, then steadied. And beside her, Zaire slept. Peacefully. Like a man with nothing to lose. But Jasmine? She sat in that silence. Heart racing. Mind spinning. And for the first time since she got to Charlotte, she felt something she couldn't name. Not fear. Not yet. But something close. The morning of July 22, 2011, at 8:31 a.m., a neighbor reported loud thumps and a scream. Police weren't called, just dismissed as a couple arguing. At 11:04 a.m., Zaire left the building alone. Surveillance showed him carrying a duffel bag. When he returned, he told the property manager he was heading out of town the next day. Said his cousin had passed. That was the last time Jasmine was seen alive. By July 23, 2011, Amaya hadn't heard from Jasmine in almost 2 days. Their last FaceTime ended abruptly. Jasmine had said she wasn't feeling well. That she might be flying home early. That she would call from the airport. But the call never came. Amaya tried not to panic. Jasmine was a grown woman, after all. But when messages started going unread and her phone went straight to voicemail, something clicked in Amaya's chest. By the morning of July 24, Amaya called Sharonda. Within hours, Sharonda had filed a missing person report in Chicago. She also contacted the Charlotte Police Department herself. She told them her daughter had flown out to see a man she had never met in person before. She gave them his name, his Instagram, his number. The officer on duty promised they'd send someone to do a wellness check. It wasn't until July 25 at 3:14 p.m. that officers arrived at the Montclair apartment. Zaire wasn't home. The property manager let them in using a spare key. The apartment was clean. Too clean. The bed had been remade. The windows were wide open. The air conditioning was off despite it being 90 degrees outside. There were no signs of forced entry or a struggle. But Jasmine's suitcase was still in the bedroom. Her camera bag sat untouched in the closet. Her toothbrush was in the cup by the sink. Her phone was gone. A bolo was placed on Zaire's car that evening. By July 26, 2011, Charlotte's Missing Persons Division handed the file over to Detective Renee Holloway, a quiet but focused investigator with a reputation for noticing what others overlooked. She didn't say much when she took the file. Just opened it slowly and flipped through every page: Jasmine's airline booking, the name of her emergency contact, her most recent Instagram post, a window seat photo captioned Chicago-Charlotte airplane departure new beginnings. She stared at that post longer than she meant to. New beginnings. By that night, she was at the apartment building herself. Not waiting on a patrol unit. She wanted to feel the hallway. Smell the air. Look at the numbers on the doors. She walked past the third-floor unit where Jasmine had last been seen alive. She stood outside for a while. Just listening. She knocked on every door in the row. A woman across the hall, late 60s, church-going, curious but gentle, remembered seeing a woman knock on Zaire's door sometime last week. She said the woman didn't look angry. Just steady. She had the kind of still face that made you uncomfortable, the neighbor said. Another man, 2 units down, mentioned hearing something loud and wet on July 22 around late morning. He thought it was a broken appliance. Maybe a busted pipe or something fell in the tub, he said. But now, thinking back, he wasn't so sure. Detective Holloway thanked them. She didn't take notes in front of them. She just listened. Collected. Then stepped outside to the back of the complex where the shared trash bins were kept. They had already been emptied earlier that morning. But the maintenance guy, mid-40s, smokes Newports, talks slow, told her about a red duffel bag. Said he saw it behind the trash units 2 mornings earlier, sitting by itself. No tag. No lock. Just stuffed full. He said he figured someone was moving and left it for pickup. It wasn't leaking or nothing, he said. Just heavy. Like real heavy. That was enough. Detective Holloway walked back to her car and requested exterior footage from the apartment across the street. She had to wait 6 hours. But when the flash drive arrived, she watched it herself. What she saw made her body still. On July 22, 2011, at exactly 11:04 a.m., a man fitting Zair's height and build was seen dragging a large red duffel bag across the pavement. He struggled with it, had to stop twice to adjust his grip. Then popped the trunk and shoved the bag inside. He shut the lid, looked around, then drove off. He returned 20 minutes later, empty-handed. On July 28, Charlotte police located Zair's car in a locked storage lot 3 towns over. The vehicle had been registered under his cousin's name, but it wasn't hard to track. Inside the trunk, they found faint, dark stains along the carpet lining. One corner of the material had been scrubbed too hard and left a rough patch. The lab confirmed it within 48 hours. Jasmine's blood. Zaire Mason was arrested the same evening in Greensboro, sitting on a cousin's couch eating cereal. When officers walked in, he didn't run. He didn't ask why they were there. He just raised his hands and said one thing. I didn't mean for it to go that far. The city held its breath. By early August, the story had gripped both Charlotte and Chicago. Some called Jasmine naive. Said she should have never flown out for a man she barely knew. But others, mostly women, mostly black, spoke differently. They said she was brave. That she did what many were too scared to do: trust. Hope. Believe in the good. Her mother, Sharonda, refused interviews. She didn't want her daughter remembered as a mistake. But her younger brother Tyrese posted a photo of Jasmine wearing her favorite yellow hoodie, smiling on their front porch. You didn't deserve this, sis, the caption read. He gone pay. That's a promise. Zaire's official charge came on August 3, 2011, second-degree murder. During interrogation, he told detectives the same story 3 times. That they fought. That she swung first. That she slipped and hit her head. But he never mentioned the duffel bag. Never explained the bleach stains in the bathroom. Never gave a reason for not calling 911. The autopsy answered the rest. Blunt force trauma to the head. Ligature marks around the neck. Hemorrhaging in both eyes. Strangulation confirmed. And Zaire? No cuts. No bruises. No defensive wounds at all. It wasn't a fight. It was a decision. Text messages between him and Kenya were recovered. One from the morning Jasmine died read. I handled it. You can relax now. Kenya Wallace was brought in for questioning, but with no direct evidence tying her to the scene, she was never charged. Zaire pled guilty on the second day of trial. He was sentenced to 34 years in prison. Jasmine's funeral was held on August 5, 2011, at New Vision Baptist Church in Chicago. The room was packed with neighbors, photographers, old classmates, women from her salon, men she'd turned down but who admired her anyway. Amaya spoke last. She said. She always loved harder than she should have. But that's what made her brilliant. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our jaw-dropping true crime updates. And if you think this was shocking, check out our next story where an old priest's affair with married woman turns into double homicide. Let us know what you think in the comments.